the relationship between the US and China is the most important economic relationship in the world. And if we get into a full-blown trade war between the US and China, which I don't consider what has happened so far to be a full-blown trade war, but if we got in one, my view is it's going to lead to recession in both countries. I don't think you can have an outright shooting war in the economic sphere between the two biggest countries of the world and not have both those countries suffer. And when that happens, every other country in the world is going to suffer too, and they know it. If you go look at emerging markets, if you look at other countries in Asia, or if you look at Europe, everybody knows that if we get into big battles over tariffs and currency and those things, there's a lot of mayhem that could take place. Now that said, for the U.S., from the U.S. side, we have over the last 25 years been trying to influence Chinese behavior in a way that's favorable not just to the U.S. but to the global economic community, to try to encourage China to be more constructive and maybe a tad less opportunistic. And on issues like intellectual property, we ought to be open to thinking through different ways to get better enforcement of intellectual property. My own view is that if you looked at the U.S., it has historically been a far more effective actor in talking to and negotiating with the Chinese when it did so both partly not in public confrontation and partly in unison with a number of other countries. I think over the long term, if you look at the Chinese economy, I'm actually, despite all of the noise and tensions in the current economic relationship, let's call it, I think that over the long run, things are going to get a lot more comfortable between the US and China, if only for the reason that the Chinese economy is going to naturally evolve to be more like the economy of rich countries in the world today. So if you look at all the rich countries of the world, you will see they spend a disproportionate share of people's household budget on services, on education, on healthcare, on financial services, on leisure and entertainment, tourism, things like that. If you look at the Chinese economy, they have a abnormally low share of things like that and an abnormally high share of manufacturing and capital goods and things of that nature. As China gets richer, they're going to shift what they spend money on, and it's totally natural that a lot of that stuff will be made in China, that they need domestic driven demand, and people wringing their hands, what will they buy? I think it's obvious. The answer is they will buy education services, they will invest in their own healthcare, they will invest in financial services, they will invest in leisure and entertainment. And as they do so, I think some of the tensions between China and the US are going to kind of drift away, I hope.